Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains. That's in Missouri, in the USA. Well, today we're going to install a new LCD in this Tandy PC-3, which is actually a Sharp PC-1250, 1251 in Tandy clothing. Luckily, there's a fella who's reproducing these LCDs. I've got a few in this box over here, so let's get started. Thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. They do circuit boards of all sizes, small circuit boards, medium circuit boards. They can even assemble them for you. Are you a maker who likes sharing your ideas with other makers? If so, you can submit your articles to the monthly submission for PCBWay and earn coupons and notary titles. Check out the link in the description below. Well, here is our unit on the workbench, and you can see where the LCD is leaking here. And I've got good batteries in here, and if I turn it on, you can just see there are some things lighting up here, and if I hit a bunch of digits, you can see them go across the screen. That's one way to see if it's actually still running before committing to replacing the LCD. The other thing you can do, as suggested by the fellow who made these, is type in beep 2. Oops, I typed that in wrong. BEEP 2. And you can hear it beep. So if the LCD is completely shot, you can get an idea if there's some life in this or not before buying an LCD. Now, I'll link below to the video that the fellow that made these LCDs put together. I made some notes after watching his video, and I'm going to pretty much follow it, except I want to try a few other things in a few areas which I will point out along the way. So we'll take the back cover off of this guy. Just 2 Phillips screws. Okay, kind of hinges that way. The cover makes a convenient place to put the screws. And the battery compartment here slides up like that. And can pull these batteries out. And then we need to remove this RAM and ROM board. Now, this is like the one it's been about 6 weeks ago or so that we found out how to troubleshoot a bad RAM ROM board with just using an ohm meter. I'll put the link to that video down below if you haven't seen it. So this little board just has a couple RAM chips and the ROM chip on it. There's also a ROM built into the processor too, but there's a 16K ROM on here. This just pulls out like that. There's a couple little grounding springs and a zebra strip here. So as you can see, we've got a couple RAM chips and a ROM chip. Okay, and all the screws so far I've taken out are all the same size. No worries about keeping them separate. We just have one screw in here holding on this intermediate cover, which is also the same size. I've got my iron up to temperature now, and before pulling this back cover off, I'm going to go ahead and desolder the buzzer wires so we don't have to mess with it later on. You don't have to do this, but then you're kind of dragging this plastic cover along with the board. Okay. There we go. And then we'll just take a little screwdriver, kind of pop this guy up like that, get him out of the way. And now we're just left with the main board in here. I'm going to take a spudger deal, pop that board out of there. That's the port cover. We can just go like that. Now we've got our board out. Okay, And notice I popped a few keys loose. They kind of stuck to this part. So what I did beforehand was I took a picture of how the wires were soldered and how the keys were in here, just in case. Because if you accidentally bump one of these and send the keys flying, it can be a tragedy if you don't know where they all go. And then M, maybe this is an easier way to go. Yeah, just slip the screwdriver in there and pop it right down in place. Okay, so now we can slip this keyboard section out of harm's way, being very careful not to bump the keys. We can peel off the rubber button doodad, and I'm just going to slide it right on top of the keys for now. Be a good place to store it. And now we've got our board with the LCD attached. Now this looks like that bezel kind of stuck to it right there. So I pulled that off. I'm going to set it back in the top case. There was a little bit of sticky tape that held it on. And notice that the dot on the frame is on the left-hand side. And I apologize, this looks a little blurry in the viewfinder. The camera is having problems focusing on this for some reason. Seems to do fine on my hand, but on the board it's getting a little blurry. Anyhow, next thing we need to do is flip this guy over. There are 8 little tabs, 4 here, 4 here, that are bent over to hold that frame in place. We need to bend those up. There's a straight one on each side, just here and here, which we don't need to mess with. And we want to be careful to not scratch any traces or anything when we're doing this. I'm going to try to get this little spudger under here to get them started. In areas like this, there's a little capacitor tacked in across these 2 pads, right in the way of that tab. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of that just in case it gets bumped or something later on. Always have this little old point and shoot laying around for just such cases. Just trying to get these by getting the screwdriver under it and then standing the screwdriver up. And maybe using these small pliers to carefully straighten them. It's really difficult to do this without leaving some little tiny mark on the board. Just got to do the best you can. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we've got all 8 of these straightened up. We can flip him back over. Get our spudger under here. Give it a bit of a twist. It's got some sticky on it, and the sticky is actually the zebra strip kind of stuck to the pads after all these years. So now we've got the LCD off. Notice there's a gap here, and the dot is at this end, the left-hand end when looking at the top of the board. And now we've got our LCD module here. Now I want to pull off the zebra strips, and then we need to get the LCD glass out of this frame, and it actually has some adhesive strips in there holding it. The fellow who makes these soaked it in acetone for a few hours to get that off there. I'm going to try a small hot plate to see how that works. For the zebra strips, you want to be careful. I'm using some small tweezers just to try to get there we go. That little spudger's working better. If you can get one end up, when you can slowly peel it up, you don't want to stretch this thing. So just take it nice and slow. Yeah. We'll just peel it up like that. And we're going to set these aside. Okay, so we've got our zebra strips off. And now we're left with this frame. And I always like to try to see how they have aligned the glass inside the frame. Again, this is the left-hand side. It has the opening right here, and which is on this side when we flip it in for end. And the glass is pushed up against the end with this opening right there. And we'll see when we look at the new LCDs, there's a bit of a nipple on this side. So it's kind of centered vertically and pushed all the way to the right when we have it upside down, which is to the left or toward the dot when it's mounted. So we'll try to replicate that when we put it back together. Now I'll clear this stuff off my workbench and we'll bring in the hot plate to try to heat this up a little bit. Okay, I've got my hot plate out here. This is a Cuisinart something. I just bought it recently. It's about a 1300 watt unit. I tried the different ranges and measured the temperature and found that on minimum it's about 100 degrees C when it settles out, which should be about right for this. So I'm going to place the LCD down here. And I was going to start a stopwatch, but you know, my phone decided to be stupid. Okay, that's been about 1 minute. So I will pull that off of there. Yep, that caused the whole LCD to go dark. They do that when they get warm. And it started peeling up the polarizing film, which is okay. We don't need that, but save that for some other project some other time. So you check that out. Pretty interesting. And then we'll just give that a little push. Nope, it's not quite ready to come out yet. It is a little loose though, so I'll put it back down there. Give it another minute. Okay, it's been another minute. Yep, it's starting to loosen up. So we'll give it 1 more minute. This will be 3 minutes total. Okay, 3 minutes. Well, it's about halfway off of there. Oh, there we go. Just that little spudger under the edge there was enough to encourage it to come the rest of the way off. So about 3 minutes at 100 C. And we've got that off of there. With the acetone, it could take 1 to 3 hours, depending on how long it takes to seep under the glue. So, yep, I kind of like that hot plate method. Okay, I'll clear this up, and we'll get our computer back over here, the new LCD, and we'll put it back together. I'm using a little acetone here to clean up this sticky strip where the old polarizing film was on the top of this frame. The new LCD has the polarizing film already built into it, so we don't need this. You could also clean the sticky stuff off the inside here, but I'm going to keep it because I'm guessing that they had that figured in with the amount of compression the zebra strips needed, even though that's only, you know, a few thousandths of an inch thick. It does make a difference. We'll get this cleaned off of here and then we will proceed. Got the frame upside down here, got the dot that way, and our magical new LCD. This has a protective plastic strip just over the outside of it. We need to peel off of there. Just kind of in the center here, like that. There's another little bump on there too, but that's the polarizing strip. So now that surface is clean. We've got the nipple end that way. The end without the nipple goes toward the dot. And we just want to drop it in there in the middle, close as we can. Okay, that's pretty well centered. Give that a gentle push down so it'll stick to that leftover glue. Gonna get a Q-tip with just a dab of alcohol on it. We'll clean the contacts on the new LCD like that. Grab the zebra strips. I'm going to put them on a piece of paper so they're not on the possibly dirty desktop. And we'll give them a clean. Clean all 4 sides in case it's picked up any junk from anywhere. Oh yeah, this one's a lot of junk is coming off there. I faffed around with cleaning the zebra strips for quite a long time. And we'll just try to get those set in there now. I just want to try to keep my fingerprints off of them. I'll use this little spudger here just to kind of square it up against the LCD glass. It's not hypercritical, but can do the best we can. You may run into a case every once in a while where the zebra strips are a little cranky. They've been compressed in the same position for 40 years. Sometimes they don't always want to rebound and work again. Seems to be more of an issue on some machines than on others. Now I'm going to take some Q-tips and some alcohol, clean up the switch contact area. Oh yeah, look, I don't know if you can see how dirty that is there. The switch area seems to be the dirtiest. And then we'll get where the zebra strips were. Then we'll get all of the keys. Like that. And I'm going to peel that little baby zebra strip off of there for the memory module. Then we'll get him cleaned too. Okay. Now, let me see which side the dot is on. Our dot's on this side. It should be over here. So I don't want to risk turning this upside down and dumping the zebra strips off of there. Get those lined up. Okay, everything seemed to slip back through the holes like it should. Look at it from this side, that looks okay. Get a few little fingerprints on the glass, which we could clean off. All right. Now I'm going to press down and start bending these tabs back in place. See how I'm just going to use the tip of these pliers here and just try to roll it over. Okay, that seems to work better and it's very controllable. I can use the index finger on my other hand to stop it from going too far. Yeah, this is a much better way to do it. Much more controllable. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. And then there we go. I'm going to wipe my fingerprints off of this and we'll get it reassembled. Got our top cover here. I put in that little frame that was around the original LCD. Cleaned up all the contacts on this rubber keypad sheet with some alcohol. Cleaned up the power switch with some alcohol. And I also took a little Brillianize and wipe down the LCD and the inside of the plastic. And we'll slip this guy into place like this. Very good. Get our back cover like this. Gonna clean up this little baby zebra strip. I'm just touching the sides here, not the connector ends. There's a lot of fuzz or something inside this particular unit. Kind of odd. Okay. There we go. He's in place. And we'll take one of our screws. Put him right in there. Check the pictures I took earlier. And I see that black is on top, red is on the bottom. Okay, it took me a while to faff with it so I wouldn't burn myself and you could see in the camera. Okay. Okay, we got our speaker wires back on there. Just fold them over. clean up the contacts on the memory board. Put him back in. Make sure the springs go into the holes. We need 3 screws for this guy. The bad part about this is you've got to kind of assemble the whole thing before you know if you got it right. Okay. Inside of the back cover tells you the directions the batteries go. So we have one that goes up, one that goes down, this goes on, turn it on. I need a smaller pokey tool. Press the all reset and adjust the contrast. Yeah, if you don't press that all reset, your display is going to do all sorts of funky things and you'll be going, oh my god. So look at that. We have a nice new LCD. And I need to get my fingerprints off this side too. But that is most excellent. So, got it all spit polished up. This new LCD looks great. It works great. I always like putting a sticker on things when I've worked on it. Just a little bit of fun. So, we'll get this on its way back to the owner. Well, thanks to the fellow for sending this in to be repaired. It was a lot of fun. It's got a new LCD and a new lease on life. I will put the link below to where you can buy the LCDs from the fellow that makes them, and thanks to him for doing so. It's got all these units back in fighting shape. Thanks to everyone who helps support the Hey Birt channel through Patreon and other means. It is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to find out some information about that, well, there's some links in the description below. If you have questions or comments, well, just let me know. I would love to hear from you. Use that comment section down there below. The name kind of gives it away. Anyhow, until next time, bye.